firmly believe that all of our history should be preserved and taught. And these men, again, died for their freedom and died for you and me, and we needed to not forget them and memorialize them here.
Jerry Miller of the Shelby County Historical Society is referring to the black soldiers based at Camp Nelson in Jessamine County. The freed slaves turned soldiers were killed in Simpsonville on January the 25th, 1865. I met Miller in the area where the Simpsonville Massacre took place.
It was a day very, very much like today. It was snowy, it was bitterly cold, and a troop of U.S. colored cavalry, about 80 men, were driving 900 cattle along the old Midland Trail, which today is US 60, but it was much smaller then. And they wound up getting this far, and they were had been discovered the night before.
Confederate guerrillas based out of Spencer, Anderson, and Shelby counties planned to attack the troops. The following day, the unthinkable happened.
22 died here. 22 died on the spot, and they're memorialized right here. There were about maybe 8 other men wounded, and they would have been taken to the U.S. hospital in Jeffersonville, Indiana.
Miller says 4 died of their wounds, and they were buried at the National Cemetery in Jeffersonville. Some of the surviving later became Buffalo soldiers. Those killed in Simpsonville were buried by townspeople.
In the afternoon, after the guerrillas left, the townspeople came out, gathered up the dead that they could find, and buried them in a mass grave. Then they lost their lights, so they had to come back the next day. They gathered up the rest of the men that they could find and buried them in another mass grave.
The burial ground became a cemetery.
Just south of where we are, 300 yards south of where we are, was an African American cemetery that was created after the Civil War. It was is probably organized by the Black Oddfellows.
So what happened to the white officer that was leading the soldiers?
A man named Flint was leading this group. He actually had been tricked out of his boots the night before by the Confederate guerrillas. When the herd got this far, he went to the dry goods store in Simpsonville to buy boots, and that's where he was when the guerrillas hit his men. And he did not come to their aid.
Since the cavalry was created in September of 1864, the soldiers did not have a lot of battle experience. There's no documentation any guerrillas were wounded. The debate continues today. Was this a massacre, which means they were unable to fight back, or a gun battle?
Interesting you should say that. After we set up this monument, and if you look at the monument, it has horrible massacre in quotes. That quote was actually from a newspaper in that period, so it was a contemporary account. There are several reports that were collected over the first 50 years after the event that indicated that they got off one shot. One shot could have been a one volley, it could have been just one man, we don't know. These men fought and died for their country, for their freedom.
For moments that matter, I'm Shirley Shanklin for WHAS 11 News on your side.